Your source for all things Texas Tech. This is the Ask Level podcast from Double T 97.3.
Hey, what's happening? Welcome into another episode of the Ask Level podcast, episode number 33. Alongside Chris Level, I'm Chois Woodman, throwing up the threes.
That's right.
Hey, what's up, man? How was Easter, fam? How's everybody doing?
It was good. Yeah, Easter was good. Had the old daughter home from college for the weekend. That was nice, and then watched a lot of good golf with the Masters, and so yeah, that it's always some good TV watching the old proceedings at Augusta.
I love it. I mean, it's fantastic stuff. Really, regardless of who wins, it's good television.
Yeah.
So I got to get this from you up front. I didn't realize so many people hated this candy. Like it's like candy corn territory. Peeps.
Oh yeah, Peeps.
Yeah, they're out on the Peeps.
And you know what's really smart? The best way to consume a Peep is if you purchase them and then you put them in the microwave. And I think there's just no better way. It's kind of like a glazed donut. I mean, and I think actually you put it on high for like about a minute. And it's actually incredibly good.
Really? Okay.
And so I would highly encourage anybody that does enjoy the Peep, or even if you haven't tried it, man, high on 1 minute, maybe two, just it's your preference, in the old microwave, and go that route. So I think that's that would be my advice on consuming the old Peep or Peeps, as you said. So
you're out on them completely, really? Nobody.
I didn't suggest anything
okay
like that.
Actually had they've started going like the Oreo route and gone a bunch of different flavors. Had Dr. Pepper Peeps this weekend, and they were
okay.
Fantastic.
Yeah, they're just a big giant waste of calories.
Oh man,
it's just some food colored marshmallow
with sugar.
It's that's what I'm saying. I just would rather consume calories otherwise, and please don't put them in the microwave. Yeah, and anyway, you can YouTube that and go check it out. It's not a pretty sight. It will basically wreck your microwave permanently. You'll have to be purchasing a new one. So yeah, please don't do that.
Actually, if you want to do it and then send us the video, we're okay with that too. We're great with that.
We're like America's Funniest Home Videos or ridiculousness here. Please don't send us your own videos. We'll go looking for them. Yeah, we don't want people out there doing craziness like ruining their microwave.
That's right.
But yeah, I have no interest in a Peep. No, I'm not trying to be
fair enough
contrarian or anything. I just don't. Yeah, I don't see the lure.
I don't think you're contrarian. I didn't realize that many people like hated them. It's like the candy corn territory. There's a tiny sect of the population out there that likes candy corn. Yeah. A little bitty one. So on the sports front level, it was somewhat busy week. Some news nationally, some news locally. Someone asked a question on the roster and the assistant coaches and that where that's heading. So kind of clean up where we're at now.
Just basketball?
Basketball, thank you.
Right.
That should clarify that. But you got two new assistant coaches this past week. So you've got one more slot, correct?
Yeah, you've added Coach Brower and Coach AC. I think everybody in the industry calls him Chokey. I need to learn how to pronounce his real name, so I'm clarifying. I'm not trying to screw it up. But even Coach McCasland referred to him as AC. They are members of your staff. Until somebody tells me otherwise, I'm going to assume these are assistant coaches. I do know that there's ways to maneuver your staff around depending on what pieces you may ultimately add to the mix, that you can change titles, change functions, and all those things. But until somebody tells me differently, it appears that those are assistant coaches, and I wouldn't be surprised if you add an experienced coach to them if those two guys are in fact assistant coaches. I have nothing to suggest otherwise, but I just know you have lots of spots to try to fill here. player development guys, graduate assistants, video coordinator. I believe you have strength coach in place, I think, which came from North Texas. You have, the operations, managers. There's just all kinds of pieces to try to fill. Like, in other words, you're talking 10 to 15, 20 people, depending on what ultimately you're looking to do. So some of this could play out well into June, technically. So I think you're just kind of getting started here. So with that, we'll kind of see what happens and where we get additions made and how long it takes Coach McCasland, because it's just pretty apparent he's being very methodical and slow on purpose, I think, with what he wants to put together here, and giving a lot of thought to it and trying to figure out what he ultimately needs.
Yeah. So with that, the name Ben McCollum's been brought up quite a bit. I think he was at the press conference as well. Is there still a thought that he may end up on staff?
That would be news to me that he was at the press conference.
Yeah. I had read that. I didn't see it. So okay. So
did you read? Was it on the internet?
Well, where else do you read things?
I don't. I mean, maybe he was there. That would be news to me. I would be unaware of that being the case. I'm not suggesting that's not true, but I don't know where that stands. I think last check he was involved in the Buffalo coaching search. I believe he's turned that down, at least according to reports out of Buffalo. I think at last check he's also potentially involved in the job search at Montana State. So, and then I think folks in the industry will tell you that I think he really wants to still be a head coach, but I don't know, I guess until he says he's staying put, or until he's elsewhere, his name probably deserves to be brought up, but sure. That's what I could tell you. Yeah.
All right. So now moving over to the roster side of things, news, I guess the latest news from the past weekend was Behren Harmon announces that he's going to go ahead and be a pro, whatever that looks like, NBA or he's just pursuing the pro career. So you can kind of mark that one off the list if you're keeping a count of the players that were here on campus last year. Is there anything from this previous group of players that makes you think, okay, this guy's here for sure, or has any of that stuff been solidified with the new coaching staff?
No, it hasn't. I think everybody's a maybe.
Yeah.
At this point, I don't expect. Obviously, I think you can eliminate I think KJ Allen is going to end up. He's released to top 5, mid-major schools. I think he's going to end up elsewhere. Fardaz Amack is gone to Cal and playing for his old head coach at Utah Valley. That's now the head coach for the Cal Bears, and I think they have reunited there. Behren Harmon has obviously decided to see if he can't make it in the league or overseas or whatever, and so he is not back. I think everybody else though is kind of a maybe at this point. And I think NIL factors into that. I think coaches' wants and needs factor into that. I think style of play factor into that, and then whether kids want to stay here factors into that. So sure. That is the process that we are in the midst of right now, I think, and trying to determine, what we want to go get, what is coming back. I think that is still kind of hanging out there a bit with some of these guys. The portal window closes for basketball, I think, on May the 11th, I think is right. Mm-hmm. And so we're about a month away. And so when you think about it, it takes 24, 48 hours to kind of get into the portal. There's only so much time that you can have to go visit kids or have them visit you. I think so. You don't have just a ton of time, and we're already starting to see lots of players already have been in the portal and they've already just made some decisions. LJ Cryer, for example, one of the most highly sought after portal guys. He's going to go from Baylor to Houston. You had a big time transfer that left North Carolina, is going to end up at Michigan. And anyway, so decisions are starting to be made. and it's just a matter of what exactly you need,
Sure.
versus what you want, and all that. And there's guys here that, again, opinions may be different, and I do think NIL factors into this at some level as well. And there may be scenarios where you want a player back, he doesn't want to be back or doesn't think he fits. There may be a situation where a player wants to be back and you're not necessarily
Right.
keen on that idea either. So this could go a variety of different ways, but I wouldn't just say, your roster has any members on it for sure just yet, if that makes sense. I know some of the guys, as we've talked about, that aren't going to be here, but you've got some question marks next to several names.
So what about one in particular? Daniel Baccio puts his name in the portal last week. With the timing of that, would you assume that it's more likely he's not going to be back? Because you would assume maybe that there's meetings that have been had and that sort of thing. It's just odd that some guys put their name in the portal before all of this. Baccio was at the press conference and then ends up putting his name in the portal a few days later.
Yeah, I would not. I would not assume that. I think. Robert Jennings may in fact be back. He put his name in the portal, and he's actually taken some visits. And he wasn't at the press conference, and he could in fact be back. So I think it. Yeah, you're like me. You're trying to connect some dots and trying to figure the lay of the land. I think the timing is certainly interesting, and I know multiple Power 5 programs are in fact after Daniel Baccio. That part I do know for sure. And I until somebody tells me differently, I do think Texas Tech would like to have him back, but doesn't mean he will be, doesn't mean he won't be. It's just he's a maybe, just like everybody else is. But unlike some, he is definitely in the portal. Elijah Fisher, KJ Allen, in the portal. Fardaws was. I don't know if I've missed anybody there.
Jennings, you mentioned him. But.
Yeah, and Jennings has been in the portal. Yeah, so they are legally allowed to be contacted by other schools. Now we know that's not exactly how that works, but they're allowed to be contacted by anybody because they are in the portal. So
last name on the basketball front, question was asked about Drew Steffi. Where does that stand? Because there's been some internet rumors floating around that maybe he won't end up, but he, at least on his own social media, last things that have been posted, to my knowledge, are all pro Texas Tech. I think he's still got the Tech jersey on and his Twitter profile, that sort of thing. So where's that relationship stand?
Yeah, I think that's a bit of a question mark. I think, who's the other signee, man?
Is it Jackson?
Jordan? Yeah, Jason Jackson.
I think so, yeah.
No. Yeah, something like that. That's embarrassing that I've forgotten that. But he's the one out of Florida. I think that the signee part is a bit, I say tricky. Again, I would assume that those guys are question marks as well, because again, they didn't sign up for Coach McCasland. I think they would probably be allowed to get out of their national letter of intent if they wanted to. And where do they fit in with the new staff and things like that? That is, it's fair to question and wonder. Ultimately, you'll know a lot by, say, Memorial Day weekend. And the reason is because just after that is when you've got, the first session of summer school, and then you can really begin workouts and things like that. So roster and staff and all those things. And that's when new players would report by then. Mm-hmm. That's when you'll learn a lot about, kind of where things stand with, like, I say that you're going to probably know much sooner than that. Sure. But that's kind of a soft deadline as we look out into the future there. But that's a great question about Drew.
And it was Jason Jackson, by the way. You're right.
Yeah, Jason Jackson. Yeah. So it was like San Diego question mark. I had it right. I just wasn't super confident with it. So I think I think we'll just have to kind of monitor, signees and things like that, just like we are with the current players on the roster, because you're having to re-recruit these guys. And again, there's different sets of decisions here. Do I still want to go there? Do we still want you? What makes sense for everybody? All that is to be determined. We are in the midst of determining that right now, or finding out what's been determined. Hey, maybe that's the best way to phrase it.
All right, shifting to the football side of things, as we sit here a couple weeks away from a spring game now. Let's go ahead and start with a quarterback question from the audience. This one's from Molly. It says there was a concern about Behren Morton leaving when Tyler Shough announced that he was going to come back for another year. That's quieted down. Is there still a concern there?
Oh, I think there always is, until, I just think this is the day and age where nothing is certain. I think you get yourself in trouble when you start talking in absolutes. Now, sure. I would say to you, based on what I know, I would be very surprised if that quarterback room in its entirety wasn't here into the fall of next season. But I'm not ever going to sit here and tell you that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, 100% lock it in, Sharpie it, whatever you want to do. But I think right now they're going through the midst of a kind of a quarterback competition.
Yeah.
I do get the sense that you may in fact hear an announcement on that at the end of spring or shortly thereafter, just kind of like, hey, here's what we're going to do. Which is tricky because I think you're trying to set a precedent to the locker room, like this is what we're doing. And but you run the risk of like, okay, well, so-and-so didn't win the job. If you do make an announcement, and I'm not saying that there is going to be that, but I'm not going to be surprised at all if there's going to be that based on kind of the way Joey has talked in recent weeks. And so, we'll see. But yeah, as far as Behren goes, he's competing on a daily basis. I think he's getting even reps just like Tyler is. And I think, the best man win. But again, I think we're all kidding ourselves if you don't think you're not going to need both of those guys to get through your season next year. And if one were to leave, you would definitely go find you somebody this summer. You wouldn't go at it, go at this season as is. If you lost one of those two guys, whoever it would be, you would definitely have to go find an experienced, able body that could potentially start based on how it's gone around here and everywhere else for that matter. So long answer, but yeah, I don't have any reason to think he would transfer, but we can't know for sure.
That's speaking in absolutes, and today's age of college athletics is probably not a safe thing. But with football, it's kind of a weekly question as we go through the spring period of football. Who are some of the guys that have been standing out? Who are guys that have really caught the eye of coaches and peers going on right now?
Oh man, open-ended questions. Those are my favorite when you just like toss it up there. Hey,
let's go defense first.
Give me the keys to the game.
Keys to the game level.
How's the team looking? Yeah, I mean those are always
these are the ones we get all the time during
spring. Give me some guys that are sticking out, huh? Well, I mean,
you want
to say defense?
Yeah, let's start on the defensive side. Who's a guy that you think is separating themselves in the spring or breakout player, whatever you want to call it? We can put it whatever cliche on it, but who's a guy that maybe didn't have a big impact last year that could have a bigger one this year based off of what has been seen in the spring?
Well, I think the interesting thing about the way your defense is built right now, roster-wise, is you kind of have this really old and experienced portion of your defense, and then you have this really young and talented, inexperienced portion of your defense, and there's not exactly a lot in the middle. And I think they're trying to catch this young group up and to potentially fill in the gaps. Your let me think here. Your Mo Horn, some of the mid-year guys, Dylan Spencer, the Chapman kid, Brendan Jordan, Chapman Lewis, Jordan Sanford, guys like that I think could potentially see see some time. I will tell you though, to answer your question, and this isn't a young guy. This is actually an old guy, but he switched positions, and I think that allows them to do some different things. I think Josiah Pierre has had a really good spring moving back to interior linebacker instead of being more of an edge guy. And I think I would have told you that your biggest question mark on that side of the ball, even when you consider Tyree Wilson leaving, I would have told you your biggest question mark on that side of the ball was interior linebacker and then depth at corner going into the spring. And it wouldn't even have been pass rush per se. Yeah. Not that wouldn't have been on the list of questions. It just wouldn't have been the biggest one to me. And that's what, trying to replace guys like Kosai Eldridge and Krishan Merriweather does to you, because I think those guys but Josiah Pierre may in fact be one of those guys that does that. And I wouldn't have thought of him. I thought this is more edge. This is more, pressure off the edge in one of those hybrid roles. But I think he's been moved back to one of those to Mike or Will linebacker. And I think he's done really, really good. So it creates some things for others. And you're missing Jacob Rodriguez this spring. Now, having said that, you're missing Isaac Smith this spring as well. That's one middle linebacker and one edge guy that you're both missing. That they're both young guys that could have needed the reps. We still don't know about Kosai Eldridge's situation as it relates to eligibility. We're kind of waiting. I don't know how much longer we're going to wait for that, but he's almost missed the entire spring. And maybe at some point he may say, hey man, I'm done with it. I've got to move on, and which would be unfortunate, but
he's on campus still working out with the team, right?
Not working out with the team, not allowed to do that. No, okay. Just on campus, and then still kind of working out, being around.
Gotcha.
He can be at practice. He just can't suit up and go through practice.
Gotcha.
That would be against the rules, and so because technically he doesn't have any eligibility left.
Okay, yeah.
So that would not jive. So, but yeah, I guess to answer your question, I guess I would go Josiah Pierre, but that's for some different reasons than I would have said about 3 weeks ago.
Interesting.
It's because he factors in on the interior of the linebacking unit instead of like a D-end hybrid type guy, which I just wouldn't have put that together. But he's done it before, and I think Tim DeRuyter pleasantly surprised that he's done it before and then likes what he's seen so far.
Flip over to the offensive side. We've talked a lot of offensive line over the last couple of weeks or few weeks. So branch it out to skill position. So receiver, running back, whoever. Is there a guy that stood out as far as those skill guys so far during the spring?
Yeah, I mean, I think Coy Aiken has done really, really good. I think he's kind of starting to figure things out a little bit. I would tell you that Cameron Valdez is going to be somebody that people have maybe forgotten about a bit. I would suggest to learn his name. He's part of that 1-2 punch at running back, and his speed is just different. His style of running is a bit different. I think that he's really got a chance to go the distance at times when he gets the ball. I think you were the only program in the Big 12 that didn't have a rushing attempt, or I say that a rushing play over 40 yards. You're the only one. You were one of only 8 in the country that didn't have a rush over 40 yards. You were one of only 20 that didn't have a rush of over 50 yards. I think Cameron Valdez kind of answers some of those equations, and it makes Zach Kitley's job easier. It makes Tyler Shough or Behren Morton's job easier. And then I think Dre McCray has certainly shown his ability to get behind the defense at times and stretch the field, and I think he's still kind of figuring things out. But those are some names there. But as far as younger players that were already here, Coy Aiken and I think Cameron Valdez are certainly 2 skill players that I would keep an eye on.
Last topic to throw at you. Last week, we see the people in the Pac-12, the medium types. Someone leaked something to the media from the Pac-12 that, we're actually going to see a media deal done. Push that date back towards late spring or early summer is what they say. So this they've given us hard deadlines, or somewhat hard deadlines. They've told us. We've heard so many things from the Pac-12 side of things about, this is getting done. I think we've heard presidents say this is imminent. what does this mean to you now that they're pushing it back even further?
Well, I think for them it's a bit of a PR nightmare. I think they're battling the reality. They're also battling the court of public opinion kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
They look extremely vulnerable. It looks like that nobody knows for sure what's going to happen. And it's kind of roll your eyes when you read the doom and gloom, but you can also roll your eyes when you hear the optimism and, oh, we're good and all this stuff either, because nobody really knows. But all that matters is they don't have a deal in place. I think they are 12 to 13 months out from their current deal expiring, which is somewhat unheard of in this day and age.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say if all was well, they would have had a deal done, but all is not well because they don't. I think it's absolutely worth monitoring. I think that Brett Yormark continues to try to press and get the Big 12 involved there. And I think he's not gonna quit trying until they, one, come up with a deal that everybody signs off on, and two, they come up and agree to a grant of rights, meaning we have a deal and we're locked into this thing for the next 5 to 7 years. So until those two things happen, the Big 12 will be rumored to be involved with some of these schools, and I think understandably so. But I do think if that were to happen, then Yormark would move on to some different options that would involve in Gonzaga and maybe some of these mid-major basketball schools that we've kind of seen or heard rumored. I think San Diego State is an interesting option for both leagues as an expansion candidate. I don't know if that is as exciting to the Big 12 as it may be the Pac-12, based on locale and based on the Pac-12 may in fact just have to have somebody, and I think the Big 12 is trying to think outside the box a bit. So, but yeah, I just think the whole thing's kind of gives me tired head because I just see all the it was a month ago. Hey, Brett Yormark's a great salesman, and everything's fine and all that. And they were talking about mid-March at the latest. We hope to know something. And then they basically tell, Klavkov, don't have a press conference at the Pac-12 tournament. Like you're muzzled. Let's nobody speak on this anymore. And then you see this report out, and it's now, and we're now into the second week in April. And so it's just, I mean, for as big of a joke as the Big 12 was to a lot of people for many, many years, it certainly is not anymore. And I wouldn't trade places with the Pac-12 for anything right now. They just, and I still say that I'm just not convinced until there is a new deal done. I'm not convinced that Oregon and Washington, they won't want more, out of the deal.
Sure.
And then I'm not certain that they're going to agree to it, or they're still, wanting to do that based on what the Big Ten may want, and we hear different things out of that camp too. So anyway, there's still a lot to be determined. I mean, I think realignment is one of those never ending topics that never really stops, but that's kind of where,
So make you break out your crystal ball one more time. If give you an either or here, what's more likely, Level, by August, at least one Pac-12 school jumping ship to the Big 12, or being reported to, or the Pac-12 signing a deal worth more than $30 million per team?
Well, when you phrase it that way, I think more likely that once somebody jumps. Now, if you just want to talk media deal,
just anything.
I would say that is more likely. Again, because the way it's been reported, I mean, that they had been told that they would get as much or more than the Big 12. I think that is the folks in the TV industry and have tried to piece that together and try to figure out a way that looks. I do think they can get as much, if not more, than the Big 12 per school. However, they're going to have to they're going to have to piecemeal it and put a lot of that on a streaming platform, which I don't think that the school presidents and everybody is necessarily okay with. So if it's just money you're looking for, they could get that. But is anybody, it's a three falls in the forest kind of thought process that may not, but they kind of want the best of both worlds, which is what Brett Yormark has right now.
Or if a tree falls at the Masters, people definitely hear it. That was pretty wild.
And as long as they're not hit by it, that's okay.
That was wild.
It was.
Level. Appreciate it, man. That was a good one. We'll
appreciate it. Yep, that was good. Good.
We'll do it again next week.
Yeah, we'll be on the other side of tax day and all those things. So good luck with Uncle Sam this week if you hadn't already sent in all of your monies to Uncle Sam. We certainly appreciate it. But Woodman, go put some Peeps in a microwave, man. I'll talk to you next week.
I'm going to test it out. I'll report.
Do it. I mean, you won't regret it, man.
For Chris Level, I'm Chois Woodman. It has been the Ask Level podcast, powered by Double T 97.3.
You've been listening to the Ask Level podcast, powered by Double T 97.3.